a publisher. She's done TED Talks and she does retreats all around Ireland. She's just a Wonder Woman. And on top of all that, she has 6 children. Hey, Karen, thanks so much for joining me. How are you?
Hello, Megan. I am really good. Thank you. And thanks for having me on for a chat. It's been a long time coming.
I'm super excited about this. Although I know a lot of people are probably going to have to stick the subtitles on with both of our accents this morning. I just want to find out a little bit more about your journey and how you got into writing, because it's like nearly 40 books you've written, isn't it?
Yeah. I write in all different genres. I kind of use myself as a test dummy, because when you're in publishing and growing a business organically because my studies are in humanities, not in publishing. So as I've learned, so I love writing. I caught the writing bug when I moved to Australia 13 years ago. But it was then that I started to write and do kids' books around my kitchen table with my kids, and to teach them about Australian animals and things like that. And we used to draw them together and everything. We used to call them Mama Mac's homemade kids' books.
I love that. So 40 books in 13 years.
Yeah. So I ended up writing, and so published books, 40, but we've got lots and lots and lots in boxes sitting beside me, actually, of the homemade ones that we done. But we went through lots of Faber-Castell pencils. So many, it's unbelievable. But yeah, my first novel was written in 2010 during NaNoWriMo, which is Novel Writing Month, where you sign up to write a novel, 50,000 word novel in 30 days. So 1,667 words a day for 30 days. And it's totally irrational of me to even consider doing it, but it was a calling that was really loud. I just had my 4th child. She was 4 weeks old. So as I breastfeeding, I used to use my other hand and type on the computer. And I even had missing keys and everything on my computer. A computer wasn't a priority, I was all into motherhood at that time. But it's funny how the things bring you on the journey, like we were here 2 years at that time, and like I'd never written a novel, but the call was really loud to write that novel. So I answered the call and wrote it. In 30 days I wrote a 50,000 word novel, and it's called The Visitor. It ended up getting published, and it wasn't a positive journey. It was kind of a negative publishing journey. But there was a quote at the beginning of the book that said, "From every negative situation is the potential for a positive outcome." I wrote that quote and I was like, I did not know that was going to be the essence of this publishing journey. But I took the positive out of it, and I had learned a lot about publishing, about different aspects of it. So I went and done some additional research, and the print and distribution channel that my publisher used opened an office in Australia that very month. And so I applied to become a publisher and said, if I get this, I'm going to help stories get told. So that's the mission I've been on ever since. And so I've had over 400 books get published, probably more now, goodness knows.
Oh, that's incredible. And what was your first novel about?
It was called The Visitor, and it was fictional, but it had my story woven into it. So before we moved from Ireland to Australia, I had a double miscarriage. And it was really, I was like, why me? I have 2 healthy boys. Why am I having a miscarriage? I really wanted them, you know what I mean? And it was harrowing, long drawn out miscarriage. And so it affected me deeply, but the taboo of it is, come on, just toughen up and get on with it. And there was no support around miscarriage whatsoever. You just need to suck it up and get on with life. And I was like, that's just so wrong. But I wanted to know why this happened to me, but I couldn't get the answer with in medical. And then one day I was sitting watching The View, and it was very interesting because it was always ABC Kids that was on in our house, never The View during the daytime. But this day, The View was on, and Whoopi Goldberg had these guests on. They were reality TV guests, and they had just endured a miscarriage. And the woman was absolutely still distraught. You could see it. And it had obviously been aired at TV and stuff, and Whoopi brought it up. And then, so Whoopi turned her back to the camera and she said, I'm going to tell you something that I tell all of my friends that this happens to. This was a visitor that came to tell you to get back onto the right track in life. And when you do, your gift will come. And I was like, oh, that's why. Because whenever I had my double miscarriage, I had been through about a year and 2 months of PTSD. So that's post-traumatic stress. And when you go through post-traumatic stress, you don't feel anything. You're just numb to life. You're just surviving every day. But when I had the miscarriage, I started to feel again, because when you're being very numb, it's just like I woke up. I call that my cocoon period. And when I woke up, I was feeling everything, and life started to happen again, and I emerged as a butterfly. So I just woke up, not just with this almighty passion to help people, and I've been doing that ever since. And that was before we moved from Ireland. Like, after I had the miscarriage, we got engaged, we got married, we got our visas to come here because we'd waited over 2 years for them. We finished off our house, and we moved. We actually emigrated here, and we got pregnant again the next month. I don't know how, because it wasn't, but it happened. We have our rainbow baby, and we moved here before she was born. So it was an amazing story. So I wove that story into a fictional novel, and the messenger is up in heaven, and he hasn't made it to heaven because they're before his time. And so he comes down and visits 5 women who each have a miss, all go on their own journey, and he goes on his own journey. So it's just, I don't know where it came from. It came from that moment of hearing it was just like an epiphany hit me, and I says, I have to share this story. And I had been writing for Building Beautiful Bonds at the time as their organic writer, and my articles were getting picked up by Universal Mind magazine. But I was like, a blog post isn't enough about this. I have to write a book. So I did.
And I think that's incredible, because it's something you obviously personally needed to do, because I think there's something quite like a release, being able to write about something or talk about something that, especially something so taboo, because like you said, it happens to so many more people than we're ever aware of. To, get it down on paper, you don't know how many people you've probably impacted, and you'll never know how many people you've actually impacted with that story, because it's something, like you said, it's not talked about enough, and it's kind of swept under the floor, and it's a hard one. People don't know how to kind of bring it up, and what's that conversation. So be able to get lost in a story about it gives people their little sanctuary, I think. So I think that's incredible that you took something very dark and not a great time in your life to be able to bring light for other people. So that's awesome, Karen.
Thank you. Yeah, it was. When somebody read it, and they got in contact with me, actually a few people have, and they said, this story give my heart the answer it longed for. And I was like, okay, job done. Needed to do that. So then there was 2 others in the series. I went on to write 2 other fictional novels, and then I went into children's books more, and then into nonfiction, which is where I hang out now.
Awesome. Now, let's go all the way back to school. You're 15 years, you're sitting there staring out of the classroom window. What did you think you were going to do when you grew up?
I wasn't in the classroom. I was down in the arcade with the boys from the tech college, being naughty and scheming school. And that's the truth. I went to an all-girls convent school, and I really did not engage with the learnings in the convent school. I just didn't. It was just all rules, regulations, and prayers, and it just didn't connect with me. Plus, my English teacher, was very shy at that time, and he used to make me read out loud in class. And when somebody who's got, whenever somebody makes you do something you don't want to do, and you go all blushed, well, the words jump around on the page. So it's amazing that I just never knew what I wanted to do. I was always very curious, always had an adventurous spirit, and I was always good-willed. I never did anything really bad, but I know whenever I left school straight away as soon as I could, and went and worked in a factory, checking tights for holes, would you believe? But it was the community, the people around the table used to have so much fun, just chatting and checking and whatever. And that was only for a few months, and then I moved on. But I always ended up being the boss in whatever job I got. I always ended up being the manager. And I was like, wow, I must have really good leadership qualities. So I ended up being a supervisor over a high-risk area in a factory. But when I had my first child, when I was 19 years old, who's amazing, when he went to school, because it was shift work, I would have to, in Ireland, you know how cold it is, Megan, it's like bitter cold. And even on the snowy mornings, having to lift him out of bed, bring him out to my mum so we could get the school bus from there to go to school. It just didn't align with my values. So I decided I was going to leave that job and which was a really big thing, because usually you go into those jobs and you stay there for a lifetime.
Yep.
But I decided to leave, and I actually applied to go back to school, and I did an access course which had English literature and history, and oh my God, I just excelled in it because I wanted to do it. I had teachers that were engaging and I was so interested. And then I went on to do a diploma in humanities as well. So I just caught the learning bug then. So I was an adult learner, so to speak. I was always very smart. I passed all my GCSEs, but I didn't have any key interest, I suppose, because publishing was never an option, and writing was blocked because I didn't engage with my writing English teacher.
That's an interesting theme on this show, that everyone that I speak to, because everyone's always really interesting, hence why they're on the show. I asked the same question, and either people are 100%, they've always known from day dot that this is the path they were going to take, or a bit like you and I, sitting in class going, don't really know what I want to do, because the jobs that we ended up doing didn't exist in the school arena. They weren't doctors, accountants, hairdressers, tradespeople, things that they tick off and they put on the blackboard for you. It's not till you get into the real world and you start doing things that you start ticking off what you do and don't like. So it's I love that journey for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. It's always it's like a unique kind of fingerprint for everyone. We all have our own, and it doesn't have to be the same. You don't, the way in Ireland you would be, you go to school, you do your A levels, you go to university. That doesn't have to be the way,
No.
Like I've been very successful, but because I have followed my own journey and allowed myself the grace of that,
Yeah, and I think education is not just a qualification that you get from school and university. Education is absolutely everywhere, and with the internet now, there's pretty much nothing. I can't think of any things that you can't learn through a YouTube channel or a blog if you put your mind to it. You've got to want to have that want to learn more about it. If you want the actual piece of paper that says you can work in it, yeah, sure, you've got to go to university, but yeah, education, it's so readily available for everyone now. I love that.
Absolutely. And when you're interested in something, I know for me personally, if I am interested in something, I can learn in 1 year or even in 6 months what I could learn in 5 years at school. Do you know what I mean? Because I just want to absorb the information. And because of, like, when we were at school, you went to libraries and you got books and there was no internet,
Yep.
That's the thing. Kids are, it's just good to go to Google and find out things, and it's amazing, and even now, like, I find out a lot, or find out the people who've the books, who, it's amazing and really exciting how you can absorb information at your own pace when you want to. No.
Yeah, I love that. So how did we progress from, so you've written this book, which is amazing, and then you've gone into, there's a couple in that series, then you've gone into kids' books, but at this point you're still working for another publisher. Is that right?
No, I never worked.
You'd started your own?
Yeah.
Oh, you started from scratch?
Yeah. Started from scratch. So I, after The Visitor, I set up my own publishing company, and you know what? This is funny, and I only share this because it's the same journey as the founder of Booktopia, Tony Nash. Whenever we had our conversation in Perth, we both discovered that we did exactly the same thing to start our business. So I set out, because obviously I was a mom of 4 at this time, but I had this passion, grow a publishing press. Totally irrational. Like, how, like, what the hell? But I thought it was going to take, I set a goal, I want to build a $1 million press. Okay. Like, what right did I have doing that? I should have just been content being a mom at home. No, I have to. But it was really important to me to share stories. It's like this calling, this mission. And so, I said, right, what can I do just to move forward? So I registered my press. I started helping people get published for nominal fees. I actually partnered with iKoala. Do you remember iKoala.com? They're like a Groupon, and I put on publishing deals there to get cash flow into the business. That was because I needed, at that time, InDesign didn't have a subscription fee. You had to buy the whole package, install it. It cost $3.5 $2,500. And that was a lot at that time. But for me, I set the intention with $50 a week is what I was going to invest in this business to grow it and get it off its, I wasn't going to take money out of my family's money. I was going to do it this way. I was just going to $50 a week. And that's what I built it from. And Tony Nash was the same. He was $70 a week. He set the intention. I was like, I took weekends off. It was $10 a day. It was really funny. But yeah, it was the power of the intention. And I started to study the law of attraction as well at that time, but I never told anybody. I just would do it for my own personal gain and use it in my own life to see how successful I could be applying these principles to my own life as well. Not just for business, but for, the life that I want to live by design. Because one of my big core values is that I wanted to be there to bring my kids to school, to pick them up. If they're sick, to hang out with them school holidays. Like it's school holidays now, my kids are here with me. You know what I mean? That's the thing. And because they grow up so fast, like my eldest is 25 now, and I know that, for the first 6 years of his life, I was dropping him off here. I wasn't engaged, or, there was so much of that. And that was just something that you did. So I chose for these kids, whenever I started, because Dylan was 10 when I started to have kids again, and I had one every 2 years for 10 years. It was like insane. It was just like, okay. So the of them are all 2 years apart. So I was like, I want to be present. I want to be a hands-on mum. And plus we were in Australia. We didn't have any family around. And so I just worked it all around that, and everything just fell into place, I think, because I was so passionate about it. And so efficient, because I was so interested in the subjects that I was, in what I was doing. I was so, and then everything I needed kind of came in front of me. So I was really lucky in many ways.
You weren't lucky.
No, I did make it happen. Yeah, I did.
You did make it happen. That's a lot of hard work. That's not just starting a business. That's starting a family and starting a business at the same time. Like that's incredible to be able to make them happen and actually be successful and work hand in hand. Like I've always had this thing since I read the Filling the Pool report that they did here in Perth about how the pillars of support that women don't have here. That's why we don't get to CEO and board executive levels as readily as men do, because we don't have that support system and stuff. And one of the big ones is that we don't have family support here, and it's a big FIFO community. So even if you do have a partner or husband, they're sometimes away half the time as well. And it's we get sold this dream that women can have it all. You can have this great career and you can have families, but the reality isn't really like that, because you've made a life by design. You're not working for someone to be able to have that great career and have the family. You've designed it around your family, and I think that's incredible, because that's the only way you can have it all, I think.
Because then I don't feel that I compromise any of myself for success. And so there's so much fulfillment in that, because I see, like everything that I've been doing, like I work hard. I will not say that I don't work hard and I haven't worked nice, but it's always building something, and there's such a drive in that and such a passion driven in that you don't feel like you're working, because you're creating. And I love to create, and I am really ambitious. I will say it now. I love being ambitious, but I love being ambitious not only for me, but to inspire others of what's possible when you push the boundaries. And I push the boundaries of lots of things, but whenever you show up authentically, I show up authentically, and I have the audacity to reach out to people. I probably, and just to connect with them on a genuine level. And I actually really and truly do build genuine connections with people, because of just showing up as who I am. Because I think because after you come through PTSD, you really are very focused on the positives. You choose to have either to have that could have defined me for a lifetime had I chose that too, but I chose no. I focus on the positives and the I cans in life, and make this a life to be proud of. Make this life is an adventure. It's there to be lived. I want to show my kids, you can have anything you want. Yes, you'd have to work hard for it, but life is an adventure. So embrace that adventure. You can be stagnant if you want. That's a choice, but it's a choice, and you always have a choice. And one of the scientific facts that I absolutely adore is that, You can choose it, and no, you cannot have a negative and a positive thought at the same time. You can only choose one. So I always choose positive. Sickeningly so for many people. I am just so overly positive, but and I do have crap days, but those days I'll just switch off, clear my to-do list, go to the beach, because I know what it takes to keep my cup full so that I can fill the cups of others.
Yeah, and that's really important. That point of being able to, because you're one of your main missions, and you're very motivated by helping others through what you do. Is that if you're not full, there's no way you can start helping other people, and I think that's underrated. It's resting is underrated. Taking time off, having a family life balance, work life balance is underrated. I hate this whole hustle philosophy that there is, because yes, you got to work hard. I don't think you can just wake up and at 18 you can have a really successful business. I know there's a few success stories out there, but for the majority of people, you've got to go through hard times. You've got to work in factories and check for holes first. You've got to do the tough jobs. You've got to do the crap jobs that you don't want to do forever, because the skills that you learn there, like teamwork. If you had just started out on your own straight up, would you have known how it was to actually work in a team and to be at the bottom to work your way up? Like you don't learn that when you just go straight to the top. And I think that that's underrated as well, that you can hustle as hard as you want, but life experience is, it's 10 times, you can't buy that. That's just, takes time.
Absolutely. It's all the journey, isn't it? It is absolutely the journey. And I love the journey. See, I set big intentions, but I love the journey of making it happen. So I think that's the difference. And I also think of challenges differently than a lot of people. It's because every challenge is up-leveling me to the person I need to be to so that when I get there, it's just it just feels like the next step, and so natural to achieve that. You know what I mean? So it is one of the, and we need to work smart. We're here on this earth to continually evolve in cycles, but when we've evolved and accomplished something, there's a time where you're supposed to stop and pause and just recharge batteries, reconnect with those that are around you that have sacrificed some, those kinds of things. You're supposed to stop and recharge, reconnect before then you go ahead and start on the next evolutionary process, and that's just life. But I see so many people just then achieving, just pushing on through. You need to stop and smell the roses and go, wow, that's so cool. That was clap on the back for me.
Well, I think that's the biggest problem with, like, when you look at imposter syndrome, is that so many people don't really realize where they're at. They're still looking at past glories from 5-10 years ago, things that they accomplished then, and they think that that's where they're still at. They've got no idea where how far they've come, because you get so busy. And you lose track of where the next goal is. Where's the next chapter? Like, where am I going? And so you don't think you're capable of it because you're still back 10 chapters ago. I think there's something in that. Stop and actually go, well done, I did that, next thing.
Oh, it is. And it's so hard to watch it. And do you know what one of my secret things is, Megan, is that I prioritize joy. I prioritize joy, because where there's joy, there's success. And that's why things happen faster for me. Like, I enjoy what I do, and I prioritize joy. If I'm not enjoying something, you'll see me stepping back a bit from it. You'll see that, because if you're not enjoying what you do, then it's going to feel like a chore, isn't it? So I have enough chores waiting for me to do every day. I don't want to add to them in my work life. So when I show up, I want to enjoy what I do. And I've built my company up that I have. When you start, you're doing everything, even the stuff you don't enjoy doing, but it's for a reason and a purpose. But as you grow, then you get to stay in your genius zone. So then then people who can then who like doing those other things that you don't enjoy doing. So you're able to stay more in that zone of joy. And it comes from mother, because mother, whenever I would go to a conundrum or anything whenever I was younger, I used to say, Mom, and she said, do whatever makes you happy. That's the answer. Do whatever makes you happy. That was always the answer. So I've always prioritized joy and happiness. So isn't that a brilliant gift to give your children?
That's a great motto to live by as well.
Yeah.
Tell me a bit about the TED Talk that you did.
Did you know it's up to 14,000 last time I checked. Isn't that amazing?
After this, it'll be up a few more.
I've got another. We're doing another one on August 5th in Perth at Media Stable. So there's a whole bunch of us. Yeah, so that's going to be fun. And it's on my 7 life principles. So that's my next talk. But the first one is own your story, change your life. And I'm going to tell you a bit of a knowing story around this, or a manifestation thing. This blew my mind when it happened. But when I set the intention for a TED Talk in 2020, I was like, I want to do it in 2020. And then I was chatting to someone, and you have to apply for TED Talks, you have to go for interviews, you have to do this, that, and that. I was like, that's all wonderful. That's not how I do life, really. So I was just going with it or whatever. And then I happened to have a conversation with, and said, listen, I chatted with you, and I couldn't wait to come and ask you to be on my TED stage. And I was like, that's the coolest thing somebody's ever said to me. So I said, yes, absolutely. But it meant I had to be in Ireland in January 2021. What was happening, So there's no way I was going to be. So we got closer and closer to the talk, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to have to tell them I can't be there, because I had to be on the stage. So instead of going into self-pity, which I could have very easily done, I went and sat in my patio, just thought, what is my ideal scenario? Like, I know I've no right thinking about this, but what is my ideal scenario? And I just won the Women Will Change the World award. And I was like, I'd love to do a TEDx Woman event. I'd love to be able to do it from a stage in Perth. And I'd love to do it in 2020, because I set the intention for 2020. But this, August, or it was even coming into September. And I was like, So the next day, I got a phone call that was asking, it was Karen, I've just offered a TEDx Women event. Would you like to speak? You have to do it from a stage in Perth, and it's in 6 weeks' time. I was like, mind blowing. The exact thing the 3 things, and I was like, I don't even know how that happened. Was not even an option the day before, but the very day after. Isn't that the most bizarrest thing?
I think we need to have another conversation about your power of attraction.
Well, I write about them in my books, how I make things happen. Like, some amazing things that happen. But that was like, wow. Yeah. And it still is wow about that. I was like, okay, that happened, and that's good. And people can learn from that. And that's why I share it, because instead of going into the, oh, poor me at a TED Talk, and I can't do it, I ended up going, no, what would be my ideal scenario? And so I sat in that energy for a little while. And
it manifested.
Mm-hmm. It did.
But it is interesting, because I think this law of attraction and everything, I think it's really interesting. I think there's a lot to be said of it, because I think putting yourself in a positive mindset, whether the actual outcome happens or not, you're always going to be much happier, because the outcomes are, you're just in a happier place. So, everything's going to be better. If you can do that, which I know is not always easy depending on what's surrounding you at the time. But there's also a lot to be said. Like, that phone call came because of you've got a very powerful personal brand, and obviously personal branding is my thing. Because that phone call doesn't come just because someone's sitting at home thinking, I'd really like to do a TED Talk here. You're on the radar for people. That's why these opportunities are coming your way as well. And I think, your positive mindset and your law of attraction attracts them to you, even more intentionally, so that you're getting the right ones. And I think that's super important when you are thinking about positioning yourself and building your personal brand, because for some people it comes really naturally. I mean, I always say it's kind of like going to a gym. Some people can walk into a gym and they just know what the equipment does. They can just get a 6-pack in 6 weeks and life is great. Other people will walk other people will walk in and kind of go, oh, they need help, they need support. And that's the exact same when you're marketing yourself, because it's so personal. And you're one of those people that very naturally does build your personal brand. So you've got a 6-pack personal brand. Let's call it that.
Personal brand. I'm going to hang on to that one.
Yeah, no, I quite like that. I'm going to have to trademark that one, I think. Because you show up so intentionally and just so authentically, and I think that that's super important. And a lot of people, you're super busy. You've started a business at the same time as having 4 kids at the time. Now you've got 6. You've not got enough space there to be another person, and I think that sometimes helps us to be a more authentic version of ourselves, because there's just no room to be someone else. And sometimes when you've got no other distractions, you're too busy trying to formulate who this person is that you want to be and who you want to show up as, and you just create an actor. Like it's not actually true to you. So I think that you've done an amazing job to be able to attract these opportunities, because you turn up as Karen, and Karen's pretty awesome.
Well,
Great.
I have to be unapologetically me, and yes, I don't have time to be anybody else. So that what you see is what you get from me,
Yeah.
And yes, I manifest and I enjoy life and I make huge things happen, Like the Duchess of York is one of my authors, like that, and to build a rapport there and get a 22-book deal for Serenity Press for that is no mean feat, but it's because I showed up genuinely, authentically, with the passion of sharing stories with the world. You know what I mean? And all of my other amazing authors who trust their stories, because it's an absolute privilege to join people on a journey. It's not just about publishing a book, having it in your hand, and selling it to the world. It's about going on that journey. Because when you go on a journey of writing your book, publishing, you're not the same person when you get to the end of it. It's an actual self-development. So because my studies are in humanities, because I'm also an author, that's why I'm a publisher with a difference, because I come at it from a different approach. You know what I mean? I see all of it, but I also have all of the connections needed and things like that to help people make the most out of their authorship. So that's why it's so important. And I'm always learning, but I want to always be learning. I have to always be learning, because if I'm not learning, well then I'm about to pop my clogs, because, but it's funny, Megan, like, on my bucket list, every single thing on my bucket list is ticked. Isn't it?
You need another bucket.
Yeah. Like last week, I got offered a radio show was my last thing on my bucket list, and I got it last week, and I was like, wow. But I'm just happy now and enjoying all of the fruits of my labor, if you know what I mean. I don't have any plan to write another bucket list anytime soon, because I had a huge bust. Now it's just about just being in it, enjoying it. So yeah.
So what is next for you, Karen? Because your bucket list is completed. You've got a very successful business. You've now got your radio show, and you've done a TED Talk. You want to do more of them. Like, what are we going to start adding to the next bucket list, or are we just going to sit in it for a little while?
Well, I'm writing at the moment, so as well as publishing, being in my genius zone, as in connecting with others and having that happen, which I love to do every day. But we're systemized now, so everything flows smoothly, and so I'm able to find time to write. So I'm writing my Alchemy of Life Magics, because everyone says, "How do you do what you do, Karen?" And we're in big books with a US publisher at the minute, so that's all happening, because my principles, what I live by, is mindfulness, intention, gratitude, love, relief, and so I write to every one of those. And book 2, actually, I invite guests in, and Elizabeth Gilbert is actually in book 2, because she wrote about knowing, and then she allowed us to use it in the book, which was amazing. So I'm just about to finish book 4 in the series, and and then I'll be on to book 5. So my intention is to get those written and out there into the world.
Amazing. Okay, before we finish up, 3 books that you recommend that everybody should read. It can be fiction, non-fiction, just 3 great books.
Okay, God, I have 400 in my head. Well, one of the books that I read that kind of changed my life, it's kind of like a one, this is You Can Heal Your Life. They together, because the secret is kind of like a wake-up call to understand that your thoughts create things, and it's a soft way. And then Louise, You Can Heal Your Life is a beautiful, amazing introduction to metaphysics, and to know that your energy, like if you have an ailment, in your bike. If you have a sore elbow, there's a reason for that. So go and find the spiritual reason for your elbow hurting, and then do the affirmation towards that to rewire and trick your brain into thinking that that's, you know, whatever it is, that's at the essence of that problem. And it blows my mind, because like an example of this is a few weeks ago, I had really bad stomach pains, and I've had a stomach of steel of my life. I can eat whatever I want and everything. And I was like, no, not my stomach. I love food. and I was like, oh, Louise Hay's book. So I went and looked at the meaning behind stomach issues, and it was exactly spot on. I was like, wow. So then I addressed the issue in my life that was creating the stomach problems, and the pain went away. There you go.
That's pretty incredible.
Doesn't mean I still took painkillers, you know what I mean? But the issue itself was resolved, because, you know. So those two are amazing. And then I'm just going to say, any other book that draws you to it in Serenity Press, KMD Books, or MMH Press. There you go. I'm going to leave it wide open there.
I'm going to put all of the links to be able to follow Karen and to find out more about her books and the books that she's published in the bio section. So I've lost my words now. I'm so into this conversation. I'm going to leave them all in the notes, the show notes, so you can find them. If not, you can definitely find Karen on Instagram, Karen McDermott Publisher, and she's definitely on my page, so you'll be able to link through to her that way too. Karen, thank you so much for this chat. This was brilliant chat. I'm a little bit kind of dazed out now, because I'm thinking about all the stuff I want to go and do, and how I need to start thinking more positively and channel some of that good feelings. I was trying to think, do I have anything sore in my body? What issues? What or who can I get rid of that might help me? But I'm feeling okay at the moment.
Yeah, that's it. Whenever you're feeling good, just be grateful for that, and you'll continue to feel good. Gratitude, the super attractor.
100%. Thank you so much, Karen, and I'll speak to you soon.
My pleasure. Bye.